Cat Needs a Home, written by Simon Topol, illustrated by Teddy Herman. Focus question: what is Cap's problem in the story, and how does he solve it? The life of a hermit crab isn't so bad. They live near the seashore and they bask in the warm sun. They bathe in the salty sea and they play in the surf. The views are great too. Sunrises and sunsets can be pretty spectacular, and you can beat the night sky with all the twinkling stars. But for one hermit crab, life was not so great. You see, Cap was a hermit crab of spectacular proportions. You may think that being the biggest crab on the seashore had its advantages. However, for Cap, the advantages were few and far between. One of the biggest problems with being big was just that being big. Being big made it easy for hungry goose to spot Cap and stay like kites in the stiff sea breeze. But there was a bigger problem. Cap could not find a home that was big enough for him. Hermit crabs live in the discarded shells of snails. As a crab grows, it moves out of the one shell and into a bigger one. The trouble is that most snails are not very big. Now that is not a huge problem for most normal-sized crabs. But for Cap, it was a problem of great enormity. Cap walked sideways up and down the shore. He searched and searched for a shell big enough to use as his home. He waited and waited, hoping that soon one day a large shell would wash up on shore. While he waited to find a proper home, Cap lived in a large hole in a rock. Now the hole was a fine home for most animals, but it was not a proper home for a hermit crab. Whenever Cap wanted to go out, he felt naked. The other hermit crabs made fun of him, and the ghosts swooped down to try to make him their dinner. Cap always managed to escape the ghosts, but the teasing from other crabs hurt to the core of his feelings. To hide his nakedness, Cap tried anything. First he gathered feathers he found along the shore and strung them together with old fishing line. Then he wrapped them around his soft shell. But the other crabs thought he looked silly. "Look at Cap now," they said. "He thinks he is a bird. The next thing you know, he will try to fly." Cap's feelings were hurt even more. He threw off the feathers and returned to his hole in the rock. Next he gathered seaweed and wove them together to make a fine-looking suit. But soon the seaweed began to rot and smell. The smell was so bad that not even Cap could stand it. So he threw away his seaweed suit and returned to his hole in the rock. Peering out of his hole one morning, Cap noticed something strange had washed ashore. He crawled out of the hole to take a closer look. As he got closer, he could see it was a boat, and a very fine boat it was. The boat was bright blue, which was Cap's favorite color in the world. He had always admired the blue starfish in the tide pools, and he thought that blue crabs were the most handsome of all crabs. He had looked for a blue snail for a home when he was a smaller crab, but he had never found one. Cap examined the boat more closely. It was made of rubber and would be perfect for stormy days when the cold wind and rain blew off the sea. And on the toe of the boat were large 2 eyes. Aha, thought Cap. Those eyes were surely scared of the swooping ghosts. And best of all, the boat was large. Cap looked inside and sized it up. The boat was most definitely big enough for Cap's enormous body. He crawled into the boat. It was a perfect fit. Cap strutted down the shore wearing his new home. The ghosts were frightened by the 2 large eyes looking up at them. All the other crabs oohed and ahed as Cap walked by. They were envious of Cap's beautiful new home. Cap was not only the biggest crab on the shore, he was also the most handsome. The next week, Cap had an open house. All the other crabs came to see Cap's home, and they all brought him gifts. Cap was no longer the laughing stock of all the crabs. He was the envy